A ballerina's perspective, from performing with New York City Ballet and Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater to publishing poetry books and mentoring kids and teens. Join us in a weekly discussion with experts to gain mental health clarity and achieve growth and moral consciousness. Give our show a 5 stars, comment, share, and come along for the ride. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth, Grace, and Gratitude podcast. Today we have a special guest with us, Gal Borenstein, founder and CEO of the Borenstein Group and leading author of business leadership books on branding, marketing, and public relations in the age of AI. So, very excited to chat with you all about growth strategies for companies and just how businesses are experiencing different stages when it comes to having like a solution oriented idea, where I think a lot of, even when it comes to personal growth, a lot of people who are on the spiritual journey, they are also seeking solution based things. And I think that shift that people are going through in their business and personal space is really helping fuel that motivation forwards into success and also happiness. When it comes to growth and leadership, I think it's very interesting to kind of connect the two and figure out how to create more of a solution based reality. Whether people are in business or personal growth, there is this shift towards wanting to be more solution oriented, and there are growth strategies for that. So, what kind of inspired you to get into this whole journey and building your group and connecting to the world of business leadership?
Well, I think that, especially in business, most entrepreneurs have a reason that is kind of unique to their situation and motivates them to actually take the risk of starting a business and then managing it and then continuously kind of invent yourself in that position almost every day. One thing that all CEOs that I've advised over the years, it really is rarely about money. It's even when they have to make the numbers or have that goal of making more profit, that's really not what's carrying them from day one to day two. So the journey really is different for each one of them. And it's typically social causes. It could be something that their family experienced in the generation before them. And that's really kind of giving an opportunity for people to develop their business based on that story, or as we call it now, origin story. So in my case, I was really meant in the destination type of point of view to be a journalist. And I started writing at age 14. And all my life until graduating from graduate school, that was kind of my way. And then one of the classes that I took in university was, what is the purpose of communications? And coming from the idea that communication is about communicating ideas, it's about differentiation, it's about telling a story that people can relate to when it comes to even news. What really happened with me is I opened a book that the professor recommended, and the first line said, the purpose of mass communications is to make money. And I remember for 2 semesters in 2 different classes, it kind of shattered my idea of what is kind of like kind of the goal of communicating. So that was kind of 2 years of hate, if you will, or 2 semesters plus another year of other graduate level courses forced me to examine, what am I doing? So what I was doing essentially is adopting the writing and the storytelling and some of the same skills like market research, and look at the market and say, how do I get a job? And the answer was there were no jobs available during that time, which was kind of early 90s. And even when a techno MBA that I had, it wasn't enough to actually make ends meet. So I basically said, I have to get some experience. I worked for a tech company for almost a year and 2 months. It was a small company, and everything that I kind of learned from dealing with people and dealing specifically with the C-suite of that company gave me kind of the inspiration to say, what are the other companies, like the companies I work for, how can we convert that into something interesting? And the answer was cross the road or the street to into advertising, marketing, branding, and PR, because they really are the other side of the mirror. When you're a journalist, you're telling a story that has a headline. It has kind of interesting point to actually get you excited about reading a story. Marketing and branding and PR are all about really kind of creating it for the purpose of commercial use, one way or the other. So that's really kind of the point where it kind of came together for me, that perspective.
That's so inspiring. I also grew up loving to write, and also I got into journalism as well. And it's so interesting you mentioned that connecting communication and storytelling and how important that is. And I was just going through my children like books when I was a child, and it's so funny because Bernstein Bears is like my favorite. Your last name is Borenstein, and then my favorite children's book is Bernstein Bears, and it's like this is my favorite childhood classic, and I think it's also something to learn about the storytelling for children, how it begins as well, and it's like the art of connecting to family, to love, to sharing, to dealing with peer pressure. And it's all connected to adulthood, what we have to deal with in the world and how we choose to market, how we choose to brand ourselves, how we choose to either be led by money or kind of allow our creative expression to be fueled by that passion and also to accept money as a form of fuel to help us invest in ourselves, in our projects. So if you're ready to shake off that daily stress, come join us for online beginner, adult, ballet, and yoga classes each week to connect with the flow of movement and the art of ballet into perfect synergy. Come as you are and learn to love your body a little bit more and gain strength and flexibility with each class. All are welcome. Sign up at balletartsmovement@gmail.com. First class free. TeloVital supports focus, energy, immunity, sleep, recovery, and resilience. Start feeling better today on a cellular level with Zeolite, super green juice, micronutrient gut support, and more. Get over 50% off your first order for TeloVital. Link in the description of the podcast. I was wondering if you're more of an introvert or extrovert because a lot of my friends who are dancers, I grew up dancing at the School of American Ballet, and so many of us are extroverts. And then a few of us were actually introverts and did well while rehearsing, even better than extroverts because there's this like attention inward. So I was wondering which one you are and how you feel it affects your flow in the workspace.
It's a really fascinating question and kind of a quandary, if you will. When you're kind of in the business world and you're running a company, you're the CEO, you're the president, or for that matter, any kind of position of corporate responsibility that you have, I found in my experience that most people are actually very shy and very introverted, and they don't express their emotions very often. But the reason they're not doing it is they don't necessarily trust each other. And when you don't trust the person that you're next to, let's say in a management meeting, when you don't trust the opportunity to develop a relationship, you kind of put your rails up, if you will, your kind of your guards, and you really kind of focus on how do I make transactional trust happen. So maybe kind of what we used to call a feedback sandwich, or something that encourage people to kind of open up a little more. And that really kind of goes back to the idea that both kind of characteristics, introvert or extrovert, are connected to trust. And developing that trust is something that I really kind of focused on in kind of helping brands, especially in technology and B2B, understand the concept that it's not just their product, it's not just their service, it's not just the quality and the number of units sold in the marketplace. It's about creating kind of a fabric or an ecosystem where everyone in the company have something that is bigger than themselves, which we call mission and vision, and then making sure that we also measure trust in a way that is tangible for the company. The outcomes typically lead to more growth and less churn if it's employees. For the CEO, they know what's actually going on in a company because people are not afraid to actually come in when the trite statement, my door is always open. Making sure that your product or your service improves itself over time because you are self-conscious now, because you collect the data and you know that your customers, your employees, your middle management, your management team, and the CEO actually have alignment in terms of what is it that the narrative provides in order to sell. And when there's a breakdown, you can actually look at it fairly quickly and say, well, the breakdown is that we never told our employees that the company is doing great. So when all the big guys in the company got a bonus and we didn't, we felt really distraught and looks like we're not valued, which sometimes is the case, but most of the cases, it's financial decisions that are made not to just enrich the executive suite of a company, unless you're in a publicly traded space, which is very different. It really is about how you are able to take the story, the narrative of what you got, and make sure that everybody is aligned with it.
Yes, that is so true. And the art of measuring like trust and understanding credibility is so crucial. I personally went through a bunch of experiences where I had to deal with like copycats and people who took part of my words or my writing and tried to make their own, creation. And a lot of people do experience this for sure. And I was actually listening to Gary Vee recently, and he said something about this, saying like, if you are so concerned with somebody copycatting you and you are stuck in this stagnant fear space, that means you also are currently limited, and you kind of can't expand beyond that. So it was for me an eye opener, and also made me realize that okay, if people do copy, they can only copy a fraction of what you're creating. If you have your own integrity and morality, authenticity, transparency, if you have all of that, that should help you evolve your brand, your personality, just everything about who you are, and it shouldn't stop you or kind of make you feel inferior. Do you have any advice for people who do experience this kind of stuff in business?
Yes, and I would start with you saw basically where people see their ideas being copied, if you will. And fundamentally, while that is very unethical, people do it every day. And in today's digital trust environment, you can find narratives outside your office. So you're not just cheating by stealing somebody else's idea within your company or your ecosystem, but it can come from anywhere in any form. It could be a video, it could be a short form content, it could be advertising, it could be your PR strategy. But I always also say imitation is the closest complement to being able to really kind of get flattered that what you actually said is credible enough and inspirational enough to get people to say, well, this has value. Keep your head high, continue innovating, and then create proof points. It's really kind of about taking the originality of your ideas and then using them in multiple formats. But also, when you have a new idea, it's on you to spread that narrative very quickly because in the digital age with AI.
Podpitch is the first and only software that finds, writes, and sends pitches to podcast hosts from your actual email address. Podpitch will make sure you get podcast bookings, guaranteed. Link in the description of the podcast. ClickFunnels easily build any type of online business and sales funnel in record time, no matter what your product, service, or niche, without any tech design or experience whatsoever. Try the ClickFunnels 14-day free trial. Link in the description of the podcast.
Information that is about your narrative is no longer in your control, in your hands. It's all about how fast can you get it to market before people start copying it. And even if they copy it, you have the ability to track the information a lot faster than what it used to be when, it was a company secret and people were under NDAs and somebody leaked it or moved from Facebook to another company. That these days are gone. Everything that we do is visible. So it's really kind of critical for creators, for consultants, for people that really kind of are in the business of developing narratives and opportunities, is to really kind of ignore anything that basically creates a dynamic where you're feeling that somebody stole your stuff. They didn't steal your stuff, because even your ideas or my ideas don't come from nothing. They can come from a Sun Tzu philosophy in the art of war, or they can be Simon Sinek with why. It could be anything that you take and then parlay itself into a unique opportunity.
That is so beautifully said. And I think there is this kind of connection between competition and attachment to the perception or the idea. And even just yesterday watching the Olympics, I was watching Alyssa Liu win the American figure skating gold medal. And her whole entire personality is so inspiring, because on her interviews, people are asking her, are you excited to win a medal? And she's like, it doesn't even matter, because she said that she doesn't have the attachment. She's just fully there, fully about human connection, presence, and even respecting every performer and every competitor, and showing love and showing compassion. I think that's such a shift in terms of even the Olympics, sharing that stage with people. And that's where the true winners are also taken into account. I think people are so tightly held on the idea of attachment to something physical, or to win, or to the idea of winning a medal. I think there, and also today's National Leadership Day. So there's something about being a good leader that's all about human connection. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think leadership is about three things. It's about, number one, creating and following a set of cultural values. The second is having a unique and differentiation between your product or your service and the other companies you're competing against. And then the third is creating something that has the quality and the trust building elements to bring it all together. And if people do that, typically they have some level of extraordinary success. People that basically are waiting for innovation to come to them, or they get innovation with the fear of being replaced, being displaced because of AI, for example, which is what I talk about in my book, Don't Believe the Hype. It really is about the idea that you are not going to be replaced or displaced if you understand the value of what AI can do for you. And at the same time, it's trust but verify that you got to have.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I was just going to mention your new book, Don't Believe the Hype, When Trust is on the Line, an executive guide on keeping your brand resilient in the era of digital and AI. That's a very inspiring message for people who are transitioning and who are transforming their business and their brand. And they do want the kind of top advice and support to help them navigate these new waters of creation and branding and marketing. What is your core message for people who are a little bit afraid of AI? Maybe they feel like they are smarter than AI, or they don't want to rely or be codependent on AI.
Well, the most important point about the coming of age for AI is not really new or the newest thing that we ever experienced. If you had Siri, if you had Alexa, there were kind of the most recent innovations where you can retrieve information. And the Google search engine, same thing. They're all basically part of artificial intelligence. But that didn't touch people in a way that was tangible to their work as much as they thought it's going to be. And the way I see it is I kind of work with companies, CEOs to actually create a trusted brand, is that you just have to look at AI as a great employee in terms of productivity if you program it and give it the kind of outputs that you're interested in getting faster. But at the same time, it's all about the questions that you ask, not necessarily about the answers that you're going to get. And I see that every day. And with AI, especially the typical kind of scenario that I hear from our clients, such as, we develop a whole direct marketing campaign via email, and we used ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Anthropic, whichever it is. And it really gave us a lot of facts and the ability to kind of customize the letter to thousands of people. And when the output comes, interestingly enough, it has no emotions. It has nothing really valuable that you didn't even already know. And that's really kind of the struggle that we're going as a society of information gathering and data collection. All these different things need experienced people with original ideas that can be passed to the AI part of the business and kind of mass replicate it. But at the same time, when you try to mass replicate, if you have the single mistake, it gets mass replicated to thousands or millions of people.
Unlock your best life with Soul app. Book a holistic wellness experience with a trained guide and start changing your life today with compassion practices, inner healing, food and diet, and so much more. Tap into a healthier and happier life with the #1 purposeful living app in the US, the Soul app, link in the description of the podcast. Sanger Daniel's online seminar promoting a positive message of self-healing with bioenergy work together with live seminars and remote coaching. Use code BIO20 for a 20% discount for our audience. Link in the description of the podcast.
And a lot of companies over the years since AI and the kind of the precursor to AI had really kind of don't get the idea that you got to get it right first on the human level. You got to be relatable, and you got to put both your kind of emotional intelligence into it with this work. And number two, if it worked and somebody kind of got engaged to lead conversation, it's not necessarily going to go the way you think it would, because you didn't kind of simulate it in a way that mimics human behavior. And the bottom line is human behavior, thinking, all these different things are actually the core of what is making AI successful.
Beautifully said. Yes, that's very true. Are there any digital trends currently that you love to kind of observe, or any of the ones that you feel like they're not really aligned with digital business?
Well, I think that right now the widely used information is being tied into CRM, customer relation management systems, and most companies that are over 25 employees, when they say, let's kind of reorganize our sales and marketing and growth, they typically pick Salesforce, which is connected to another kind of robot, if you will, that is called LinkedIn, another one that is called Slack, and they're all about accelerating the communications. And if you can accelerate the communications, it could be a benefit. But again, you can't build it if you're not asking the right questions. And the right questions are, did this fall flat with our audience? Did we check that the audience that we're selling to is actually prepared to accept new innovation in a marketplace. Just think about, for example, a new cream for facial um, treatment, for cosmetics. They come up with a promise that they found a new element that will make your skin look great, right, in the consumer world. And in reality, it really kind of helping people just associate themselves with a brand. So when you buy skincare, for example, the name and the branding go a long way. Same when you think about a perfume or a cologne. Uh, have you ever seen an ugly person in any of those commercials? Translate that into the next part of the evolution, which is now you have to, because there's social media. And if people don't like it, you're going to be on TikTok uh, responding in a kind of a response mode versus being proactive. So what I advise all clients and all kind of entrepreneurs and people that are trying to take their ideas to the next level, it really is to look at, once you have an idea, does it address the kind of challenges that customers have, align the values with um, the employees and the management before it gets out, and then test it again and again, even if you're not in the product or consumer market. It could be a kind of a piece of software that got developed for cybersecurity. If you kind of follow the news, cybersecurity is kind of the weak point in kind of the new age of AI and digital, because everything is becoming online, real time. And imagine cybersecurity is getting hacked. And these are the people that are the most trustworthy engineers that you can think about. But yet they say, trust us, we have the tools to make sure that you don't get hacked. And in reality, they get hacked as many times as a bank does. They don't talk about it. And when they do, it's typically the brand names that we all know, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, for example. And suddenly you get a notice that says, you got hacked. And the you got hacked is not just the brand of AT&T or Verizon. It really is the company that is kind of close looping their security. So there's a lot of erosion of trust because people don't go through the messaging and kind of the narrative to say, yes, there is a lot of turmoil and bad guys out there, but we're kind of the closest to being somebody who cares about it. And then provide proof points that that's the case. So sometimes the proof point would be, we didn't get hacked this year. We didn't have to deal with paying bitcoins to a shady dark web organization. That's a win. But people don't message it correctly. They just look at it as we got to apologize and we got to make sure that we fix everything, which they have to do. But at the same time, it's not the same as being proactive about it and kind of pushing the communication that you are the partner of your client's business. You're not just following orders. And I think the difference between the two is what successful brands do.
That's amazing. And it's also the fact that you just ultimately have to be grounded in your values to also avoid temptation and to be aware of the risks. So you're completely right. There is so much risk. And when you're actually succeeding and you have more experience on your side and you have more credibility, it also bolsters so much confidence for the team, for the business, for yourself, and for the growth. And do you have anything coming up you want to share with the audience? Anything new you're working on?
I'd like to kind of share with the audience is, I wonder, two books that have been released in the past year and a half. First is called Don't Believe the Hype, which is really kind of an executive guide for anybody who is in business that needs to understand that it's all about creating proof points internally and externally in a company to keep your brand resilient and growing. And the latest book that I just released is called Beating Goliath with AI, which is really kind of a description of us as businesses or kind of entities being the Davids. And if we look at AI as enabling us to fight Goliath, the big guys, as a small business by using digital slingshots, we might actually get to kind of empower ourselves to really compete effectively against the guys that can crush you simply because they have more resources. So that book, it really is about providing kind of a playbook for people in small business that really kind of need to change their kind of attitude and kind of adjust to a new world where you can be crushed faster than ever before. But at the same time, if you look at AI as a friend and incorporate it into the business properly, you have the opportunity to have differentiation. And in this book, I give some ideas of how to do it and a framework that's called Hustle, which is about really kind of the things that you have to do to get out of your box. And the box is what you think about yourself versus what people think about you.
Amazing. Such an inspiring conversation. Thank you so much, Gail, for coming on the podcast and sharing and guiding innovators and executives on becoming the trusted voices in noisy markets. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your wisdom, and where can people connect with you, get your books, and see your content?
The easiest way to connect with my books is just go to Amazon and type Go Borenstein, and you'll see 5 books that I wrote in the past 3 to 5 years. And in terms of professional connections, use LinkedIn, look up my name, Gal Borenstein. There's only 2 of us in the world with that name. Chances are very good that if you send a connect request, I'm going to look at it. And also, I want to mention that folks that are listening to this podcast are invited to ask for a free copy of the e-version of the book, Don't Believe the Hype and Fighting Goliath. And you can basically send me a request, and for the first 10 people that are actually interested in it and send me a request, the podcast listeners can take advantage of it and get it for free.
Amazing. So people can totally take advantage of this great opportunity.
Thank you so much.